Welcome back to the Marketing 101 for Small Business Owners podcast. I'm your host, Philippa Channer, and we've reached the grand finale of our goal setting series. So I'm excited to be here, and if you've been following along with us this month, we've covered everything from SMART goals to execution and maintenance. And before we get into today's podcast, I want to make sure that everybody knows about my special announcement. I've been talking about it, sharing about it. You're going to hear more about it in the weeks to come. But I am launching this coming January 2024. I'm launching a new program called Empower Her. It's a business accelerator. This program is going to be amazing for those women who are looking to level up their business, really take ownership of their marketing strategy, and just take their business to a whole nother level. So it's going to be a 4-month program. We're going to meet every week for 16 weeks. 1-hour meetings. They're all going to be virtual. And it's there. You're going to get a rock solid business model. You are going to get a magnetic online presence. We're going to really build up your online presence, and it's going to have a killer content strategy. I'm going to give you 12 weeks of a content strategy. If I were going to be running your business for 12 weeks, here's how I would market your business. And so it's going to be great. And it's all customized to meet your unique goals and challenges for your business. You don't want to miss this opportunity. So please check the link in the description. It is empowerher.channerconsulting.com to sign up, get more information. Okay, now we can jump into today's episodes. Now that I've got that out of the way. All right, so today's message, we're going to be taking a little step back off of our goal setting series. So before we do that, let's take a recap of all the points we've covered so far. In the first episode, we talked about the power, essence, and the importance of setting SMART goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. The second episode, we dived into the nitty-gritty of executing those goals, emphasizing the importance of consistency, accountability, adaptability, and celebrating those milestones. And the last week, we discussed the art of sticking with your goals throughout the entire year. Focus on strategies like consistency, more accountability, there's that word again, more adaptability, and again, celebrating those achievements. So very similar to what we talked about before, but it's just reemphasize how important they are. All right, so now in this final episode of the series, again, we're shifting our focus to a topic close and dear to my heart. And we're going to talk about motherhood and business growth. We're going to explore how to set realistic business goals in 2024 while balancing that delicate balance between being a mother, the demands of motherhood, and being an entrepreneur. So joining with me today is a remarkable guest who brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the discussion. Cienna Kopischke. She is a 3-time multi-figure business coach. She is teaching women how to grow and scale their business using potent marketing and sales tactics by removing limiting beliefs that are holding you back. And she has a BA degree in communications from the University of North Florida. I'm from Florida also. And she has a career in advertising for over 8 years. So Cienna, I'm so excited to have you here. So let's go ahead and just bring her in. Stop listening to me talk. Okay. All right. Cienna, and I have the saying, hopefully I said it right in my intro. I said Cienna Kopischke.
Kopischke.
I know.
It's okay.
All right. Please introduce yourself further. Let people know who you are, what you do, and the value you offer.
Of course. Well, Philippa, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate that. So I am a visibility and sales coach, which means that I help my clients make more money. That is the easiest way to put that, by really teaching you the strategies that you need to put in place in order to attract your next client. And so that is what I do.
Awesome. I love the word strategy. That's just my strong suit. And anytime I hear any people encourage strategy, I jump right to it. My whole series this month was talking about setting goals so you can get to those strategies. So, and I know today, though, we're going to be talking about motherhood and entrepreneurship and just that balance that it plays. So please get the conversation started. What's the first and top thing on your mind when it comes to being a mother and trying to run a business?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Motherhood in general is hard, right? It is beautiful, it is blissful, but there are moments where it is also stressful. Business is the same. Business is beautiful, it's blissful, but it's also very stressful. You're going to have those months where you're up, where you're down, And it's kind of the same thing, but in motherhood, I feel like it's every day. Like 1 minute you're up and then the next minute you're down, right?
Yes.
There isn't really like a win-win, but you do your best and you keep making it happen. My son just turned 2, so it
Oh,
is festive here. Like he is just a ball of energy. And I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I also run my business successfully. So, it really does come down to kind of that bringing up that word strategy, having a strategy, not just for your business and how you're going to operate your business, but how you're going to blend your life into your business or your business into your life, right? Which I
yes.
prefer. So it really just starts there. It starts with kind of figuring out how are we going to make this happen and what are some things that we're going to do, and then coming up with a game plan from there.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I know I never really had to think about this until
Mm,
COVID. I do have 3 children, but
okay.
the I was blessed with a fortunate job opportunity that provided staff childcare. And
Nice.
so shortly after giving birth, I was able to go back to work. They would be in the office with
Right.
me and then slowly navigate to full time in the nursery there.
Mm-hmm.
But I always I didn't have to have that, I didn't have
Yeah.
to find the balance. They gave it to me where I
Right.
went to work, kids were right there if they needed me, and then I would go right back to work. So
Yeah.
now it wasn't until I left that job. And at first I was like, okay, great. This was the fall of 2019. And
Mm,
so I was like, great, I'm going to just take a few months, relax, and then I'm going to start my business. And
yeah.
then I started the business February 2020, and everybody knows March 2020, the whole world
Yep.
kind of fell apart. And I was forced to
Exactly.
have to navigate how to have the kids home.
Mm,
At that point, they were in first, fourth, and fifth grade.
yeah.
And so different stages of growth,
Of
different
course.
demands of my time. And, I was forced to find balance, but I'm so glad I went through the experience
Yeah.
because
Of
now
course.
that they're back in school, and they're not constantly here, am so much better at finding that balance of running
Yeah.
my home, running the business, but and still making sure that everybody got their needs.
Oh,
And
most
so
definitely.
I don't know if everybody needs to, hopefully everybody doesn't need to be forced into the situation. So I'm wondering, like, how do we start to think like what are some of the things that we should be considering when it comes to balancing our lives when we're working from
Yeah.
home and trying to be a mom?
Yeah, of course. It's a little bit different if you own your own business, obviously, than working from home and you're working for a company because you have like time commitments and things, right? Like as a business owner, I will say that you have a lot more flexibility. One thing that I have found that works really well for me is just understanding like what my child's needs are. So at this stage of my life, he is so little. I mean, I've had my business since before he was born, but now that once he was born, I had to like kind of figure that out. And I will be honest and say like those first couple of months was really hard. I have a newborn. I have a company. I'm trying to go to meetings with clients. I can't run my business like I used to, where I can meet with anybody at any time of day, right? I have this baby that has scheduled nap times and like has a feeding schedule. And it really did become difficult. And so I had to figure out, okay, what does this look like? And so for me, that first step was understanding his sleeping schedule. And this one was huge because it wasn't
Mm,
until I understood when my baby is going to take a nap that I understood when I can actually take a meeting, right?
yeah.
Um, because he's 2 now, so he's still so little. He needs that mommy attention. I can't just leave him alone and come sit in my office and like do what I need to do. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so we hired a sleep consultant, which was the best decision for our family. Again, not every family is going to need that dynamic or that situation. But our son just like, he was sleeping really well once we got him to sleep, but it was hard to get him to sleep.
Okay.
And also, he didn't have a schedule. Like, I could never figure out when he was tired, when he was not tired. And so, what our sleep consultant does, we hired like a holistic sleep consultant. And what she did for us was she tracked like what we were doing for a week. And then she said, okay, let's create a schedule out of this. So this way you and your husband can have you time. You can have time to work in your business and other things, right?
Yeah.
And so we came up with this schedule for him that just makes perfect sense. Like he takes his naps every day at noon now. I mean, well, now he's 2, so he's napping is at noon.
Yeah.
Prior to that, he was at, 2 naps a day. Then now he's at his one nap a day. And then we set a bedtime, which we did not have before. Before, he was going to bed at like 10 o'clock when we were going to bed. And so we were all so tired as a family. My sweet husband wakes up for work at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And, he's exhausted. We're both exhausted. And then we're both like frustrated because like I can't get my work done because the schedule was so chaotic. So really organizing that. And now with our son going to bed at 8, we still go to bed at 10, but that gives us 2 hours of like adult time for us to watch TV, for us to like get to know each other again after parenthood, right? And that also like organizes my time for me to say, okay, my son's going to sleep at noon. I can now, as soon as I lay him down, I can come into my office and I can start my work and I can take meetings from this time to this time because I know roughly when he's going to wake up.
Yeah.
So if you have young kids, that makes sense. If your kids are a little bit older, they're obviously not taking naps. Maybe they're in school, maybe you're homeschooling. My goal is to fully homeschool my child. And so for me, what I plan to do, but don't quote me on this, you have to check back in a couple of years because parenthood is so weird. But what I plan to do is implement quiet time for 3 hours a day. So you go to your room, you play, or you go sit on the couch, whatever you need to do. But mommy is going to come in her office for her 3 hours, and I'm going to get what I need to get done. And that's my me time. But everybody's different, and you kind of have to start with what makes sense for you. When will you be able to be the most productive, and start there.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. And I know that, the time block is going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
And, sometimes maybe it's like it's 3 hours, but maybe it's an hour and a half, in the morning, an hour and a half in the afternoon. You have to everybody has to find the balance that works for them and for their child.
Most definitely. I mean, I had someone actually reach out to me I think a month ago. And she just like messaged me on Instagram and she said, Cienna, I'm frustrated. I'm like, okay, why are you frustrated? And she's like, I have a 10-month-old daughter at home and I'm trying to work on my business, but I have no time to work on my business. And I said, okay, so when are you trying to work on your business? And she's like, all the time. And she's awake right now. She's screaming at me. I'm trying to work. And I said, that's where we need to start. Like, that's where we need to start. Maybe when your child is awake, you spend time with your child. And it's not a knock on motherhood or anything like that. We all have to figure out what works for us. I tried working when my child was awake, and it was miserable for me. I could never get it all right. I felt like I wasn't giving enough attention to my child, or I wasn't giving enough attention to my job. I was at a mixed crossroads. It was really hard. Yeah. And so it's not a knock on her. She's an amazing mother, but we have to, all of us have to kind of find our balance so we're not overworking ourselves and causing ourselves to burn out. And I explained that to her and I said, okay, tell me, what does your situation look like? Are you married? Do you have somebody, where's the father? When does he get home from work? And she explained his work schedule. She explained, her baby's sleeping schedule. I said, awesome. So based off of all of this information, these are the times when you're going to be most productive, right? And so I made a little schedule for her. And she started implementing that. And I would say a week later, she sent me a message and she's like, you saved my life, because I was frustrated and angry, and I was angry at my child and I was angry at myself, and I felt so torn. And I said, sometimes we just need to find balance. And I know balance in motherhood is really hard, but it really does take discipline. And then on the flip side of that, once you are able to get into your business, you figured out your child's sleeping schedules, whatever, when you're going to work schedule, now it's time to understand what you're going to do when you get to work. Because what I see for a lot of people is they have this schedule and then they sit at their desk and their baby's sleeping for 2 hours or an hour and a half and they got nothing done, or they don't feel accomplished. And it's because they don't have a strategy for how they're going to move their business forward. Yeah. And that's another issue. And so then we have to start thinking, okay, what are we going to do to actually grow this business and make this move, because we have to make money.
That was going to be my next question is the idea. I'm spoiled right now because all my 3 kids are now older. So they're 10, 12, 14. So they're at school, and they are in public school. So they're at school during the days. But even when they come home, if I'm still working, they need me, but they don't need me.
Of course.
They all cook their own food. They all do everything on their own. And so they need to spend time with me and hang out. But I can continue working, and they can wait, and they're mature enough to understand that.
Yeah.
But I know that's, not the case for everybody. So I can't imagine. So I'm fortunate to have the ability to do like an 8-hour day and get 8 hours
Nice.
of work done. Obviously, that's not everybody. So I'm trying to navigate and think in my brain, okay, if I only had 3 hours, what do I need to focus on the most to get to be
Yeah,
the most productive? Now, this may be different for every business owner and based
of
on where they
course.
are, but I would say I would ask, generally speaking, if you are limited to only 3 hours of work each day, what should somebody focus on to make the most of those
Yeah.
3 hours?
That's a great question. So it really, like you said, it kind of depends on who you are, what your business is. For some of my clients that work with me, I tell them like, let's do A, B days. Like go back to like middle school where they have like A days, B days, right?
Right.
And like on your A days are the days where you work on your business. Your B days are the days that you work for your clients, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
everybody is going to be like this. For my specific job, I can't implement A days and B days because my clients, excuse me,
Yeah.
because my clients are going to need me when they need me. And as their business coach, it's important for me to be accessible to them, right?
Yeah.
So, but for most of my clients, based off of their businesses, they can implement this schedule and it makes a lot of sense. Okay, these are the days I'm going to get my work done for them. For my clients, these are the days I'm going to get my work done for me. And when you're getting your work done for you, I always tell people this is like the key. What actually is moving the needle? So when we look at your business as a funnel, right? The funnel to get to sales. The first very tip of your well, I'll turn my triangle upside down. So
Yeah.
like an upside down triangle, right? The bottom is like what comes out, which is the sales results that we all want, that we all need. Okay, so you have this goal. Let's say your goal is to get to $100,000, right? At the very top of your funnel, you have to have your mindset. I cannot specify this enough. And while this is not something that you're actively doing on a daily basis in your business, if your mindset, if you don't believe that you can achieve everything in your 3 hour time frame, then you're never going to achieve it. Like there's no amount of coaching that I can do for you because I'm not a mindset coach. I'm a sales coach. I'm very practical. I'm like, this is what we're going to do to move the needle. This is what we're going to do to bring you revenue to your business. But we really need to start with your mindset. So you have to believe that it's possible for you to achieve your goals. And that's number one. And I mean that with every fiber in your being. And I know there are going to be days as an entrepreneur where it's low and you're like, oh my gosh, nobody's buying, or I've had 3 months where nobody has bought from me, or you have it and it gets stressful and our mindset goes downhill. Then we start to think that we're not worthy, that we're not good enough, that we're not capable enough, all of these things. But I want to rephrase that mindset. And when you start to feel those negative thoughts in your head, we have to readjust them. Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, we say, I am good enough. I am worthy. I am capable. I can achieve my goals. I can achieve my dreams, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first part of the funnel. And it's the most important part of the funnel. Because again, just to reiterate, if you don't believe in yourself, nothing else matters. It will never work.
Yeah.
The second piece of the funnel is how are you getting visible, right? How are you exposing your business to people who don't even know that you exist? And I really like this piece because I think a lot of entrepreneurs overlook it. They start posting on Instagram and they're like, nobody's following me. Nobody's liking my content. I get it. It feels like that sometimes, but it's because you're not getting visible. Posting on Instagram, posting on Facebook, putting something on Google My Business is not a visibility metric. That doesn't bring in new people into your world. That is marketing. Marketing is very different from visibility. So visibility is what are you doing to put yourself in front of new people on a daily or weekly or monthly basis? This is going to be your things like appearing as a guest on podcasts, going to networking events, right? Networking events is huge. I actually host a virtual networking event for female entrepreneurs every Thursday. Networking events are huge. Like I've seen so much greatness happen out of my own networking event for like the people who attend. On top of this, if you are an introvert, I always tell people this, if you're an introvert, get off of social media so much. And maybe the way that you get visible is by writing a guest blog for other bloggers.
Yeah.
This is important. Blogs are so successful. I don't think people even pay attention to how blogs can help to increase your reach. But when you put yourself on a blog as a guest, you're writing that guest blog, you're giving so much valuable information to that other person's audience that their audience is going to want to connect with you. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, the same thing with podcasts, but not everybody has the confidence to like show up on a podcast. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you if you're someone who's listening. It just means we got to find another way to get you visible, because there's thousands of ways that we can do that. TikTok is really interesting. TikTok is visibility, but it's also marketing in and of itself, just because of the way that the algorithm is designed. So I feel like if you love to be on camera, TikTok is probably one of the best ways you can increase your visibility to thousands of people with one video, right? The more videos you're posting, the better. But TikTok does have a really long lifespan on their videos, like 90 days. So you got to get visible. Just all of that to say, you got to get visible. You got to put yourself in rooms you've never been in. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to make new connections. The more connections you have, the more your business is going to grow, the more your pipeline is going to be filled with new people. And you have to factor that in. So for example, for me, one of my things that I do is I go to 2 networking events every single week on top of the one that I host. So technically 3. Right. Yeah. And then I come up with a strategy for how am I going to nurture those people that I met at the networking event, because you cannot just show up at networking events and go, okay, I'm going to make clients. It doesn't work like that. Networking is not sales. Networking is not marketing. Networking is visibility. It's just putting yourself in front of other people. Now we need to nurture the people you're putting yourself in front of, whether that's appearing on podcasts, going on blogs, doing Instagram lives or Facebook lives, which is another visibility thing, especially if you do it with somebody else, not by yourself. That is visibility. If you do it by yourself, it's marketing. Very different. And then the third step of the funnel is, how are we marketing? How are we nurturing this audience? So for example, if I'm on a podcast, which I guess I am right now, ironic, but if I'm on a podcast and I'm like, okay, at the end of the podcast, here's my Instagram handle. Now I'm funneling these people to my Instagram. I'm funneling, right? If you are on a live with somebody else and you're funneling someone to your whatever social media that is, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, it doesn't matter. Alignable is great as well. Wherever you're funneling these people into, that is our nurture sequence. Now we are creating content that speaks to their desires. Now we are creating content that is painting a picture for what it's like to work with you. We are not selling in our content. I can't express this enough. Like if you are selling in your content, that is probably why you're not making sales. Your content is supposed to be there to nurture your audience. It is supposed to be there to help your audience get to know you better, to connect with you, to feel comfortable investing in you and what it is that you have to offer, whether that's a product or a service. Now we have the sales aspect, okay? Sales is the last piece of this funnel. And if you nurture properly, if you have a really good content strategy for whatever platform you're on, if you nurture your audience properly, you're going to convert them into sales. And here's how. If you're on Instagram, the selling should really happen in your stories, because you can be more direct. You can paint a clearer picture. I tell people this all the time. Actually, 98% of all of my sales comes from my Instagram stories.
Nice.
And then I move them into the DMs and we have conversations and so on and so forth. But that's where my sales are coming from. The other 2% is like people who just hop in my DMs on their own. And they're like, hey, Cienna, I want to work with you. How do I do that? Right. And so this is really important. It's like making sure you're understanding where you're selling. If you are on TikTok, now this is going to look different, because TikTok, like I said earlier, is visibility. It is nurturing as well. So it's your marketing, but TikTok is also sales in a way, right? So you can sell at the end of your TikTok videos and direct your audience to your products with your link in your bio. You can direct your audience to go to your Instagram as well from TikTok, and then they can buy from your stories. But you want to have a great, how are we actually selling to these people? Maybe your nurture sequence is through your emails, right? So you're nurturing, you're sending out these emails. People are getting to know you. They feel connected. You're not selling right away. And then you send them a message that talks about what it is that you actually offer and how it is that you can actually help them with a direct link. That's where the selling happens. But again, the whole funnel starts with your mindset. So if you're looking, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to accomplish? I only have 3 hours a day to do it. You need to go through your funnel and figure out what I need to implement within my funnel and how can I do that within certain increments of my day, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. That was a lot more than I expected, but I mean, it really, that is so important, that visibility piece. And I know, I'm thinking and I'm visualizing these 3 hours, using that model, these 3 hours that people have. how do we make the most of it? And of course, I'm assuming it's during the middle of the day sometime, but those three
Yeah,
hours could be in the evening hours when
they
your
could.
significant other's home. They can, spend time with the baby, but those three
Right.
hours are you going to the networking event and making that visibility impact. And then maybe
Yeah,
tomorrow, your 3 hours are during the day and you're following up with the
of
networking
course.
activities that you did. And
Yeah.
so I love that.
It's really important to focus on nurturing the people that you meet. Excuse me.
Hmm.
It's really important to focus on nurturing the people that you are meeting when you're going to networking events,
Yeah.
because again, networking isn't selling. And I see it so often, and I tell people who come to my networking events, you're not allowed to pitch. Like, that is the first thing that I say. You are not allowed to pitch anybody that's on this call. It is a no pitch zone because we are networking, which means that we are building our connections. And I have been to some in-person networking events even too, where you go into the room and there are people who are like pushing sales onto you. And I am like, I am not interested in buying from you because I don't even know you. I
Yes.
probably want to buy from you in the future. I probably do need your services, but I need to know you. It is 2023 going into 2024. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is buying from a one-time contact. We are
Yeah.
all buying from people who we know, we like, and we trust,
Yeah.
right? Like, and so that's really important to factor into your messaging. How are we really nurturing these people? How are we getting to know them? Are we taking them out for coffee? Are we doing like virtual coffee chats? Are we just spending time connecting?
Yeah.
Because I don't need to sell to anybody. Like, my services speak for themselves. When you get to know me, you see what I'm about. If you're interested, you're interested, and we'll have that conversation. And that's how I make the most of my money. And sales, it doesn't need to be slimy. It doesn't need to be sleazy. It doesn't need to be in your face. It
Yeah.
just needs to be subtle and human first. And that's
Yes.
it.
Yes. I absolutely love that. I recently attended a sales training. Excuse me. And halfway through, I was just like, I'm so uncomfortable with this because it felt
Yeah.
so transactional and it felt like very intentional going into these networking events and strategically finding people you're going to sell to. And I'm like,
No, that's not how sales should be done. It's like we are in a whole new decade.
now it's my turn to cough. Okay. Oh boy.
Yeah,
My eyes
but
are-
no, we really are in a whole new decade. We're in a whole new era of life. And oh my goodness, there's a book I read that I loved. I think it's called Sell Out Without Selling Out. Yeah, if you've read that book, it is so good. And it really talks about the human first connection of sales, right? Sales doesn't need to be like, I have this computer mouse. You need to buy it because you don't have a computer mouse. It's just like, I have a computer mouse. It's
Yeah.
for sale. It's here. If you need it, you'll reach out to me. If you don't, you won't. And
Yes.
it's also, I think when we sell that way too, we empower our customers and our clients to make that decision. And we're saying,
Yes.
hey, you have authority over how this gets to go. And when we do it that way too, we really build a solid relationship with our customers and our clients. And what typically ends up happening is these are people who are not defaulting on their payments. These are
Hmm.
people who are like with us for the long run. And it is because they weren't pressured into that decision.
Yeah.
Imagine if you were pressured into marriage with your husband or girlfriend or like wife, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if we were pressured into marriage. We would not, we would be miserable. And let me back up because I know there's a lot of people who still are what is it called when you're forced marriage?
Hmm.
Um what is it? I can't, my brain's not working.
Yes. I know what you're talking about. Just
Arranged marriage,
arrangement.
yes. Obviously an arranged marriage could work, but if it's slightly different. I feel
Yeah.
like based off of what I'm saying is like if a man walks into your house right now and is like, you're going to marry me, you're going to be my wife. That is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You're
Or
not going to be happy with that.
even the subtle manipulations
Yeah,
into situations, into sales, into relationships. You know them,
exactly.
you feel them, man, deep down, I don't know if I really want this situation, but
Yeah.
the way it was presented, I feel stupid if I don't do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's hard. It's really hard to like know, but you have to trust your gut when it comes to sales. And I always tell people, I mean, this is a biblical concept, but like do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Like
Yeah.
if you don't want someone in your face trying to sell to you, then don't be that person. If you're like, well, Sienna, how am I supposed to make sales? Well, maybe we should have a conversation, but that's
Yeah.
a whole nother discussion. But
Yeah.
it's like you can make sales in a way that is easy. I mean, I'll be really transparent, like as well. I sell $20,000 coaching packages in the Instagram DMs without ever having like an actual conversation with people. And here's why I can do that. Because I know the power that my service offers. And
Yeah.
so does my audience, right? So when they're looking at my content, they're being nurtured by my content on Instagram. I make all of my sales on Instagram. That's like where I primarily am.
Yeah.
And this is what I teach as well. Like when you are confident in what it is that you sell, you're not going into a desperate mindset. You're not like reaching out to every single person like, you need in my offer. You need it, right? Like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I just put out my content and I nurture my audience. I talk about what it is that they're going through. I really make sure that I address in my content how I can help them, how I can solve that problem. But I'm not like, buy this now. And because of that, and also too, I share in my stories a lot of my personal life, right? Not nitty gritty details of every single thing that's going on in my life, but I do talk about myself. I do like coffee, make coffee with me. So like every morning I'll make my coffee and then I'll go on my stories and and so people are feeling like they know me. I'm not like, they don't have to have these long conversations with me to figure out whether or not they want to buy from me. They are empowered enough to make that decision on their own from my personality that they can see in my stories, from the content that's nurturing them and speaks to what they're going through, right? Like, and on the flip side of that, when they do work with me, I'm helping them. I'm really making sure that they have everything that they need. So it's not like I have forced these people into my world. It's more so like I'm allowing them to make that decision, and you have the power to do that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely love, love, love it. Okay. The last thing I wanted to talk about too was how you feel about these co-working spaces. So bringing it back to balancing motherhood, trying to have children, and then again, focusing on the young children. Older children, it's easier to handle and
Yeah.
navigate. It's the younger children trying to balance that. So I've heard of a few female entrepreneurs. They will get together, and some male entrepreneurs. Any parent who is working from home and has a child at home as well, that they would get together and do like these co-working spaces where they would all go to one person's house and they would hire a babysitter or two that would be in another part of the house with all the children kind of hanging out for like maybe 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
So that way they're all in a space. They all have their laptops. They're focused head down working, but they have each other to bounce off of, and their children are being taken care of.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like that is a good inclusion in trying to
I've
find
never done that before. And I will say this. I'm also really hesitant of that. Now, not to say that it can't work for some,
Yeah.
but I know my child. And my son in particular is mommy's boy to a T. He is glued to my body. I can't get him off of me. I'm surprised he's not up here right now. He is just like, I want my mommy and I want her now. It doesn't matter if there's other kids around. It doesn't matter what's going on. In order for me to get work done, I really have to completely leave a situation or a setting. And that's that is just me. Now, I will say this as well. We do there is a indoor playground near me. And it is very inclusive for mothers, working parents, I would say in general. And they have this awesome setup where it is completely gated. And so it's massive, but you can see, because it's for it's for toddlers. So like no one over the age of 5 is really going there. So you have all these babies and toddlers that are going and they're playing. And then there are desks, there are like tables, and I can go and I can plug in my computer. And that is the only place that I have been able to go where my son doesn't need me hands on. And I think it's because I go there with him so regularly. We go there every Tuesday. So I make like Tuesdays if I need like extra things to do, right? Like I'll go and I'll let him play. At first, when I first started going there, it did not work out that way. He was not adjusting very well. He wanted me to play with him with every single toy, and that's fine. I mean, he's a baby. He's going to need mommy. And so I would play with him, but I never got any work done. And so as I kept going and I kept going and I kept bringing my computer, he started to adjust, and then he would play by himself a little bit at a time. Then he would come get me and he'll like, okay, mom, you got to play with me now for at least 10 minutes. And then he'll push me away, and then I'll go back and I'll sit and I'll finish my work, and then he'll come back, and so it's like, it's one of those things. If it works for you, it works for you. Sometimes little kids need that help to adjust to that type of, any situation, they need help adjusting, right? Even if it's daycare, it's going to be an adjustment period. You have to do what's best for you and for your family. If you need more time than 3 hours a day to work, I get it. Like 3 hours is not a lot of hours. It's all I have, is all I do. And my clients understand that, but also because of the way that I work with my clients, I work with them through Voxer or through Slack, depending on what program they have bought into me with. And for them, what I have noticed is that they can just send me a voice note. And obviously, as my kid is playing and he's awake, I can respond to those voice notes. I don't necessarily need to be at my computer. I can be anywhere. And that has been very helpful for my business to implement that strategy. But yeah, you have to do what's best for you. That wouldn't work for me because he would see me, he would see all these other parents, and he would try to climb on top of us. But I think like the play area where it's gated, he can't really just as easily come to me, but he can still see me, has been very helpful for us.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I definitely have really loved and appreciated this conversation. Yeah. You made me think about a lot of different things. All the mothers listening, get some ideas of how to find that balance, find that peace. And so I know you mentioned Instagram several times, so please tell me your Instagram handle so people can follow you.
Yes, my Instagram handle is Cienna Kopischke. I make it easy. It's just my first and last name.
Okay, perfect. I'll make sure I'll put it in the show notes, of course, so people can find it. And I appreciate you coming and just sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Okay, perfect. And everybody, this is, where are we? This is the week after Thanksgiving. So I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, and looking forward to the holiday season. As I mentioned, I've got the Empower Her program coming up. So if you want more information about that, it's linked below. Otherwise, you guys have a great week, and I'll start a new series next month. So look forward to that.